So.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's Budget Work Session, Citizens Night, and Council Work Session. Today is Thursday, December 5th, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get further into the meeting, I do have to announce out that Wednesday, November 26th, approximately 6:15 p.m., we had an executive session for personnel reasons. And now moving over to the budget work session.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, at the budget works, I would like to make a motion, excuse my voice again, to table the budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is this a voting meeting?
Until, you have to help me with that, I'm sorry.
Wendy, are you going to address the budget this year, or are you looking to move it to next year?
I'm looking to move it into January.
So your motion to table was to table it not just to the next meeting?
Yes, sir. It
But
is.
into January?
Into January, yes, sir.
Okay.
And there's a second. Mr. Dice, if you would please explain that that is appropriate to do that at this time.
This is a voting meeting?
The budget work sessions?
Budget work session.
Not the budget, because that's an ordinance. The budget work sessions.
Correct.
That is
That's
correct.
all that's on the
So
agenda.
during that process, is that a
Excuse me,
voting meeting?
Lois.
Is that a voting meeting?
Mr. Dice, if you would.
I think that if council chooses to put off procedurally the budget process of meeting to discuss portions of the budget with department heads, you can certainly instruct the manager tonight that that's your wishes, and you can certainly do it vis-à-vis a motion. It's
Is
a
it-
procedural matter.
Is it appropriate to have a motion and vote at this meeting?
It's as appropriate as doing it Tuesday. I don't have a problem with you doing it. If there's the lion's share, if there's a majority of council who wants to do it, it's appropriate.
Would it be, what about consider just canceling it at this time? Can we do that to cancel?
do that.
Is it, I'm just asking for,
It's really a business decision on your parts. If you wanted to cancel it, and I want you to know, under the charter, there certainly is provision to not pass a budget if you chose to, if that's the intent, in 2013. It's set forth in Section 1108 of the Home Rule Charter, and it contemplates if council fails to pass a budget by December 31st, then you'll continue to run on a month-to-month basis with all the items in a prorated accordingly until such time as council does adopt a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. So there's provision for that. So
I
right
think
now, what
that-
I'm hearing JJ's motion, or his intent to instruct the manager, is to put off the budget process for further hearings with department heads until January, which means there won't be a passage.
some of the ones even here, I think they've discussed, I mean, they have the right to even open it if it would pass, so they can do that. And some of the people here, people have spoken up in opposition of what might occur in the budget. So for some of us who aren't going to be here, I don't really think it's useful. So, I mean, I would agree.
Well, so there's a motion and a second, and there really shouldn't be too much dialogue since it's a motion to table the process.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Abstain.
Mr. John?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Department heads, you can leave at this time.
And let me just make another statement, so that it's clear to everybody. What's happened now is the budget process has been tabled or moved to the fiscal year 2014, at which time it will appear on the next agenda in 2014. And I believe you'll get instructions from the manager as to what department heads would become available at what particular times to continue the budget process. That's That's it.
Okay, thank you. I have to grab those sheets, see if anybody did sign in.
So that's the end of the budget.
No, it's,
We only have one that's signed in, and I will open up to the floor. John Yakem, if you would, please.
Good evening. My name is John Yakem, and I do live in Monroeville. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Manager Sedlak, good evening to all of you. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to address you in council again this evening. It has certainly been a hectic week for the municipality. I have one particular area of concern this evening, and that has to do with the first day of Mr. Sedlak's tenure. Mr. Sedlak was appointed last Tuesday evening. Approximately 14 hours later, Mr. Sedlak unhired 5 new police officers who were legally hired by the previous manager. These were 5 men who had passed all the prerequisites to be Monroeville police officers. They had been given their fit-for-duty physicals and psychological exams. They had been told to order uniforms, and they were given their start date. My question is, whose decision was it to unhire these officers? Now, Mr. Mayor, before you answer my question, I want to share with you some of the rumors. The first rumor was that Mr. Sedlak was ordered by you to unhire those officers. You and I, and hopefully Mr. Sedlak, know that according to the Home Rule Charter, the mayor cannot order anyone to really do anything. The second rumor is that council ordered this reduction. I was at the last meeting. This was not part of any public discussion. Since the hiring was part of the 2013 budget, it would certainly seem that any change would involve a public meeting. I was also told that it was done in executive session. Again, I was at the last meeting, and there was no motion to go into executive session. Executive session was never advertised, and finally, council doesn't usually vote in executive session. Since the target of 50 cops had been part of the 2013 budget process and recent council discussions, it would seem to me that a reduction would be the purview of the manager with the advice of council, and any council activity should be public. Recently, the topic of hiring cops has been part of the public debate. However, at no time have I seen more than a handful of council members suggest a freeze of hiring cops to get us to our budgeted 50. Many times this has come up for discussion, but no motions or majority vote was ever made to reduce our department size or reduce the department budget. My understanding is that next year's proposed balanced budget calls for a force of 48 cops. But this reduction of 2 was to come about by the 5 anticipated retirements. By Mr. Sedlak unhiring these 5 officers and with the anticipated retirings, Mr. Sedlak reduces our department to a 40-man department in the first half of 2014. I find this level troubling because being that previous councils and previous budgets and at least 3 previous chiefs of police have put our department size needs in the range of the high 40s to the mid 50s. Reducing our size would mean a field day for various bad guys. 3 years ago, we were in the middle of a crime spree in our community. Burglaries and shootings were at an all-time high. I really do not want to go through that fear again. Now, Mr. Mayor, if Mr. Sedlak made this decision on his own, I would certainly consider that within his powers. However, I wonder how he could come to this reckless decision, which was counter to multiple managers, chiefs of police, and councils. He would have made this decision without the advice of a finance director and without a chief of police. He would have made this decision without having set any budget discussions involving the police department. And he would have made this decision within hours of being appointed. Besides the legal jackpot that I think this decision puts our community with these 5 unhired officers, I feel the reduction of our police department to 40 officers is unsafe and will ultimately cause harm to either the residents or police officers. So, Mr. Mayor, I will ask my question one more time. Whose decision was it to unhire these officers?
Are you done?
Yes, I am.
Have a seat.
You're not going to answer my question?
It's a personnel issue. I will not respond to you.
It's not a personnel issue, sir. It's a budget issue.
I'm not going to even discuss this with you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just so I could make some comments real quick, just so the public knows, as far as levels of police officers and the safety of Monroeville, to compare to other regions in our area, Cranberry Township, they have 27 full-time equivalent officers. Mount Lebanon is 44, Penn Hill's 45, Plum, 38, Upper St. Clair, 28, Bethel Park, 38, and North Huntington, 27. So just want to compare it to other areas where we are currently.
And just before I turn it over to other residents that would like to address it, I will address some of the misstatements that were made here this evening as well. So,
Mr. Mayor, before you do that, may I make one just brief comment, and that is the numbers that we've been looking at for other municipalities, townships, are not equivalent with the duties and responsibilities, and I would have hoped that even though you take a look at 36 versus 40 versus 45 versus 50, that you have some kind of an acuity scale to go along with it for services, because that's really what it amounts to, because of the business district and all the other things that are residential.
In Radnor, Pennsylvania, which most people don't know what Radnor is, but it's in the eastern U.S., a very comparable area to ours. 2012, they had 36 officers. 2013, they did budget for 40 officers for this upcoming year. So I agree, we have to compare apples to apples.
And you said Radnor, Pennsylvania?
Radnor.
They have a mall, convention center, 2 hospitals. I mean, I was looking at comparing it as well.
I mean, as far as hospitals, I'm not sure, but
we
very
get-
comparable in size, budget,
Well, I'm
square
just saying our,
miles, business
well,
district.
most of our highest calls are traffic accidents and retail thefts from obviously the retail section.
Right.
I didn't know if you're comparing, if that did, because I've never heard of it before.
I'll get it for you.
you know what, Council, if I can, I would really like to get back to our residents. This is their portion of the meeting. You certainly can address anything you would like in your report, if you would. So again, once again, I'll open it up to the floor to the residents to address council. Is there anybody else that would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, we will close that portion of our meeting, and we'll move over to our work session. And all members are present except for Mr. Ramsey. Council, looking at the minutes of Citizens Night meeting of November 7th, 2013, the budget meeting of November 7th, 2013, are any additions or corrections there, please? Seeing none, just another note on our council meeting of November 12th, 2013. I just talked to Sharon. She said she'll get that out to us as soon as it is possible. So, moving over to our reports of our tax collections. Once again, council, any questions or comments? Seeing none, moving over to our payroll report. Any questions or comments on our payroll report? Seeing none, we'll move over to our list of bills, and we'll start it off with you, Byrne. Any comments?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Dr. Grieshock.
One question this evening. I'm looking on the GL list, page 37, under Parks and Leisure Learning, Parks and Recreation. There is a gym rental fee through the Gateway School District in the amount of $2,030.63. I believe we've never been charged this in the past, and just look for some clarification.
Well, I can tell you that I think that it's probably just the one issue with the basketball courts, but I would agree with you. Not to my knowledge, I thought that our agreement between, and I was certainly part of that agreement between the municipality and the school district, there'd be no charges. Paul, you want to come up and address that? I mean, that was my understanding, but that may have changed.
Nothing's changed as far as I know.
Oh, they have been charging for the basketball courts?
No, sir. No,
Okay.
we haven't been. 12 years I've been here. We've never been charged for anything. My understanding was it's been a mutual agreement between the municipality and the school district.
That is certainly correct for many
We
years.
help them, vice versa. So I had received this bill. I wasn't sure what to do with it, and I got a call from an administrator over at the school district who I explained told the same story, and they in turn, Dr. Zeddy called me. And I spoke to Dr. Zeddy and told her basically the same thing. And I explained to her that there was a meeting held with yourself. I think Joanne at the time was there. I was on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And some intergovernmental people, Bob Rieger and some different people, that we were going to try and track over the next few years what we've done for them, what we've done for them, vice versa, type thing. So that's where it's always been left. Talking to a couple other school board members and stuff like that, they weren't aware of this either.
Yeah, because I addressed that with Mr. McGill, and he was not aware of it, and he
Yes,
is the new president again.
Yes,
of
sir.
the-
So
of the
I
school
think
board.
coming on the list of bills is a good thing, that maybe we can kind of bring this back up again, readdress it with maybe an intergovernmental meeting or something like that.
I would think that would be very appropriate.
So you can do what you want, but I would maybe hold
No,
it
no,
off.
no, I will address that with Mr. McGill, and if you
Yeah,
can.
because these are what we're using the gym for, just so you know, all rentals any rental fees that you see on our side, 45, 46, 4,700, all those fees for rental facilities have strictly everything to do with gym time. Any fees you see there has nothing to do with recreational programs other than gym fees. So you understand that, when you see
Yes,
47
yeah.
rentals, we get everything for free through school district. They're wonderful. The only thing that they charge us for are on Saturdays in certain gym locations.
Right, so I would recommend to council that we remove this from the bill list until we get this resolved.
Well, I would agree too, but you said there was an agreement. Is that a verbal or?
It's always been, they've tried to do an cooperative agreement. I actually have a copy of it. It's been going on since,
So
oh
there's
my
So
God.
there's a written copy of that?
But it's never been signed.
Since
this has been going-
2004.
Oh, yeah,
Paul.
easily. Yeah,
2004, because that's the first year I started
Yeah.
that, when I was on
But it's
school.
always worked out. Like I said, we help them out with different things. They hold their end-of-the-year concert series up at the band shell. We help them out with picnics. We've provided the pool for them for the
Snow
sixth grade.
removal.
Well, again, yeah, those are things
I
that
can
I
name-
know of on our end.
I can name a
If you
few
can
other
start
things that
totaling
we've
those
done,
things
when they
out,
had
so.
their sewer issues, when they had their water line issues,
Yeah,
yes.
and like I said.
We've helped them a lot.
The school district is absolutely wonderful. The maintenance people,
There's no
everything, we have
question,
no problem.
but Dr.
whatsoever.
Zeddy's new, she may not be familiar with how we've been operating, and I think that, I just asked Joe if he would talk to Dr. Zeddy. I will certainly address, as the mayor, to the president of the council again, to Mr. McGill.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So once again, council, I would recommend highly that we remove that from the bill list on Tuesday. Am I correct, Mr. Dice?
Yeah, I assume that's going to be done, Joe. I don't hear anybody on council objecting to that, so let's remove that.
Okay, anything else there, Dr. Reesok?
That's my only question this evening.
Mrs. Drummond?
Yes, Mayor, just one, just for clarification on budget transfers on page 3. I was just trying to make sense out of the architectural engineering contracts service fees. There's a exchange of $2,000 there. 2102 is the department, and I just needed to understand what that was about.
Sure.
Okay?
I'll look into it, and I will get back to you tomorrow.
That's all, Mayor.
Mr. Johns?
No, sir, nothing.
Mrs. Allison? Nothing. Mr. Duncan?
Nothing this evening.
Okay, Al, she already started on budget transfers, but we'll start off with you, Steve. Anything on budget transfers?
No, I have nothing.
Mrs. Allison?
Nope.
Mr. Johns?
Nothing, sir.
Once again?
I just did it.
Okay, Dr. Reesok?
Nothing this
And Mr. Erb. Very good. Nothing. We'll go over to proposals and bids.
Just to make you aware, I expect the bids for the 2014 insurance package to come in tomorrow, and I'll have it to you as soon as I can. This will be the workers' compensation, the property and liability, the entire package. So when I get it from Gleason tomorrow, I'll forward it to you, and they will be here Tuesday to explain everything. So I just wanted to get it on so we have it.
Very good.
Mayor?
Yes,
If I
sir.
could, the budget transfer was from my department. Joe, if you want me to answer her now?
2102?
Yeah, the
Okay.
$2,000 was transferred out for purchasing of GPS units for the municipal vehicles.
Okay, that answers that. Thanks.
Any other questions for Paul or the manager? None? Okay. There's no new business at this time, and we'll move over to resolutions. And Joe, if you would.
Yes, ma'am, this is a resolution
Mr. Mayor?
authorizing.
Public comment on agenda items?
No, that's Tuesday.
We had citizens night. We don't do that on,
We did that on Tuesday. Okay.
yes. But thank you, though. Vern? You're reading very well.
Only 4 years.
Go ahead,
I'm
Tim, I'm
tired.
sorry.
Yeah, this is a resolution authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement for the municipality's participation in the County of Allegheny for snow and ice control on county roads for the years 2013 through 2016. This is an agreement we sign every 3 or 4 years to salt and plow the county roads such as Beatty Road, Stroshine. Steve, maybe you can help me out with the other county roads that we do, Monroeville Boulevard.
Are they attached?
Monroeville Boulevard, Saunders Station.
Yeah, there's a map in there, yeah.
Yeah, it's in here.
Yeah, so. But it's an agreement we sign every 4 years.
Questions or comments on this item before you, council? I think this is pretty much just a housekeeping
It is.
issue. I guess that, as it was explained by Mike, it's just a couple of pennies more. It's not that more expensive, and I think this is a good agreement. Seeing no comments, we'll move over to ordinances.
There's one other resolution that I'd ask that you consider. It was passed out by Mr. Hugus tonight.
Oh, I was going to do that. You wanna do
It's
it
a
now?
resolution.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, it's appropriate
Go
time.
ahead.
And this is another housekeeping matter. This deals with the Caruso plan again. Remember, we approved all of this last month, maybe 2 months ago. When the county took a look at the resolution that we passed, the most recent resolution, I think it was 2012. So they consider it stale at this point. They asked that we pass a new dated resolution, and some of the references to 2012 were taken out of it. You have it before you. I'd ask that you put this on the agenda for Tuesday to vote on. And it's housekeeping in nature. Nothing's changed.
There's no changes to it. It's, the project's out to bid, so
It's
Project's already up.
merely updating the county's records with a current resolution.
Well, apparently there was one change. Paul, do you want to address that now, or you want to address that on Tuesday?
I could do it. I mean, the changes to the agreement are highlighted in yellow in your packets. They added some verbiage to the agreement.
Paul, were any of these changes different than what went out to us in October via email?
Well, they repriced the cost estimate. That cost estimate reflects a change that the county is adding more money from their accounts.
Is it any different than what we sent out in October of this year?
It's getting
No,
better for us.
No.
Right.
It's the same as the October agreement.
Our financial and our other
Right.
liability stayed the same. They just took on more.
The municipality's financial obligation is the same.
If you remember, you signed the agreement
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah. but the-
October, and then you just want a new resolution.
No, there's no question, but Paul, as I read this, the number 11 on this is something that I'm not sure all of council has read. And this is something new. It says, "And all additional costs necessary to complete the project, the additional costs shall be paid by Monroeville and tendered to the county no more than 30 days after the county shall make a written demand upon Monroeville for payment." That was not in the original agreement. Am I not correct saying that, sir?
Yeah, that's an addition too.
That is new, and
It's in addition to the 2012 version.
It was in
Not the
one that sent us in
October.
October.
that is,
It was in.
this was in the October, I see, I didn't
Yeah,
remember that.
this is in the
I-
one that you had signed in October.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't, I thought that was different. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Okay, very good. Mr. Dice, ordinances.
Okay. There's 5 ordinances, all deal with the salary system. I assume that those are tabled along with the process,
That is
because there's nothing to vote on at that point. That's all I would say about those.
Makes sense. All finished, Mr.
Yes, they're all budget
Well, as
related.
well, I just wanted to
Yes.
ask you that.
Yes.
All righty.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I am formally finished.
Okay. We'll move over to our reports of our officials. And Joe, anything more for us?
The only thing I have to say is, I've only been here, being acting manager for 8 days now, and I just want to thank all the employees who have really pitched in a difficult situation to help us out in this, this unprecedented time in the municipality. So I really appreciate what all the employees have done in the last 8 days.
Very good. Mr. Dice, any words of wisdom?
None.
None. Okay. We'll start off with you, Mr. Duncan, if you would, sir, please.
The only thing I have is, again, for Joe, I know it's a trying time for Joe and for everyone, and I wish you a lot of luck, and I know you'll do a good job. That's all I have.
Mrs. Allison.
Yeah, on the CVB, this coming weekend, we have Still City Con coming December 6th through 8th. Admission's $15 per day. 3-day pass is $25. Autographs are additional, and children under 5 are free. And like we were just talking about the Crusoe plan, the bid went out. The pre-bid meeting was Thursday, November 21st, at which Paul indicated it went well. The bids will be open on December 11th and then assigned.
Is that it? Mr. Jones.
I'll try. I have a couple of things. For the folks that live over off of Northern Pike near Maria Lane, I spoke to Mr. Hugus today, and with his help, everybody knows that there's been a gas leak over there for several years. They patch it, it comes back, they patch it, it comes back. We just got word today that it is in their 2014 budget to repair that line from the top of the hill at Northern Pike, Maria Lane, clean down to Route 22, which is going to make a difference. And I'm going to try like heck to work with a couple other people along with Mr. Hugus and PennDOT while they're doing that. They're supposed to come up the other side of the highway, the road, which means we may be able to address all the stuff that falls down on the road all the time coming off that hillside, so it could be a good thing. The other thing I have is it's just, it's a personal thing for me. It's our time of the year for the kids, Spirit of Christmas. Myself and Mr. Hillgrove do every year. Myself, along with a lot of folks that help me, we just spent a little over $30,000 buying toys for a whole bunch of little children. And the money that we raise throughout this year is for toys for next year. So our big event this December the 9th, this coming Monday, is down at Silky's Crow's Nest in Sharpsburg. It's an event we have every year. We raffle, we have a DJ. It's kind of like a big party, but we do raise a lot of money doing it. We'll have some Steelers there, a couple of the old-time Pirates. And I'd like to make an awful special thank you to Mr. Sean Logan from the CVB. He has been so helpful this year. We have a lot of the elderly folks that would like to go to Silky's, and obviously it's a little bit of a drive, 25 minutes. But if you intend to have a coffee or a pop or sometimes a cocktail like I like, it's a long drive. So he has donated 2 buses. And we have a lot of people going. I still have room for a few, so anybody that might like to go and have a good time, promise you it's a fun evening, and it's all for the children. And then with that, that's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Mrs. Drummiller, I hear that you have a long report. Do you mind if we go to the other? That's my understanding. I was just told that. Is that true?
Who told you that?
I'm just telling you what I heard. I was going to give you your time if you'd let me.
That's fine. You can let anybody go ahead of me that you need. That's okay.
Dr. Reesoff.
Just a few announcements about out of the Parks and Recreation Department. Letters to Santa, it ends this upcoming Tuesday. Letters can be dropped off at the library or here in the rec department. Parents are just encouraged to make sure that return addresses are legible, and Santa has a very good track record of answering all of the letters that are dropped off. So ends this Tuesday, library and rec department. This Saturday, Candy Cane Hunt, which is 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the Community Park West. Cookies, hot chocolate, and crafts. Come out, it'll be a fun event, and there'll be a special appearance by Santa Claus as well. And this Sunday, the holiday light contest will be happening. So residents are encouraged to turn on their holiday lights this Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m. There'll be a winner for every ward, and then all 7 wards, and then the Parks and Recreation Board will then pick a grand prize winner out of the 7 wards. So that is this Sunday, 6 to 9 p.m. Please have your lights on. And then an ongoing event is Give Us Your Best Shot Winter Photo Contest, which residents are encouraged to take and submit a winter picture in digital format. And entry forms and the contest rules are all available at the Recreation Department. So please get involved with some of these special events that are coming up with the Rec Department. They always do a fine job. And 'tis the season. And lastly, I just want to wish Mr. Sedlak luck in this time, and hopefully, I'm very confident he'll do a fine job. And as he said, special thanks to all the employees who are really doing a lot of different jobs and really trying to help out and really trying to, we're all in this together, whether it's employees, residents, and us here on council. So we're hoping to have a smooth transition here in January. That's all I have for this evening.
Mr. Erb.
Yes. I want to address a couple of questions that I've had over the last couple of months, starting with a comment that somebody that I know and we've had a good relationship over the years and think pretty highly of him, commented that there was a scorched earth policy that was in place that was trying to finish out before we left. And it was pretty shocking to me. I never commented on the accusations that they were going to be hiring 5 people because I never really thought that we would be. Ultimately, leading up to the Attorney General's letter, I think that the manager did an excellent job. She presented a balanced budget. I thought it was a fairly good budget. At the same time, the reason that I voted to table it is real simple. There's a new council coming in. When I was on council, I was coming in as a minority. I didn't appreciate that the majority of council voted and put me into a position of having to support a budget that I did not appreciate. This budget's getting opened no matter what we would have done. So we can either all, as residents, council, community, enjoy our holidays, or we can sit and listen to budget hearings that are going to have to be redone come January. With that, it made sense to me to table it. It made sense to me to come to a meeting when we had the meeting last week, because very simply, anytime there's been an issue related to needing a quorum, I have changed my agenda, I have changed commitments, I have left other commitments to make sure that there's always a quorum and we don't run into situations where we can't hold meetings. As far as hiring 5 people this year in anticipation of retirements next year, since I've started with the state, I've had an employee that works for me that has said every single month that he's going to retire the next month, but he has never submitted his paperwork and he has never retired. There is no guarantee until somebody retires that you backfill for them. You don't backfill in anticipation of retirements until they actually occur. So that's why I came. I never supported any kind of scorched earth policy. I've done everything that I've done since I've been on council, including tonight, for the express purpose of doing what is good for this community. Disagree with me, agree with me, that's not the point. I've done what I believe is right for this community. And I will continue to do so until I'm no longer on council, and then after I'm off council, I will continue to do so as long as I live here. With that, I'm going to move on to something a little bit more lighter. First of all, there's an initiative that the library is doing next year. First of all, it's their 50th anniversary. If there's things you want to talk to them, about the last 50 years in Monroeville, please get it to the library. I think they've done some recording of Mr. Spielman and some other people and had some discussions about life in Monroeville over the last 50 years. But they've got a big initiative going on next year. Look forward to it. Council members, both outgoing and incoming, you've probably received a letter from Christy. She's asking you to reach out to her, sit down with her and talk to her. I'm asking you as the liaison to the library currently to support what she's asking. Their initiative is called Yes to the Library and Yes to Monroeville. I'll leave it at that for now, but keep in mind that it's going to be a big initiative over the first quarter of next year. I'm asking that you listen, you pay attention, and that you support this. It will help Monroeville, it will help the library. A lot of Christmas things going on. Dr. Griesbach talked a lot about them. One of the ones I want to bring up is that Crossroads Presbyterian is having the Journey to Bethlehem tomorrow and Saturday, starting at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So if you can make it, so it's a great time, please do. And with that, again, thank you everybody for coming, and I'll give it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Dronhover.
Yes, Mayor. And just to follow up on what Vern said, I've met with Christy Fusco, and I support what you just discussed. This is going to be their 50th year, and I was interested to meet with her. I'm glad that I did. So please, everybody, think about the same. Just a few items, actually, but I'll quickly mention about the monthly schedule for the senior center. A lot of things have occurred. Bingo has already for Saturday, but coming on the 10th, Tuesday, is going to be the holiday pancake breakfast, and that's at 9 a.m. I mentioned that last month ahead of this. The breakfast is pancakes, sausage links, fresh fruit, orange juice, coffee, and hot tea. And Tara has informed me that I believe they are still collecting registrations for that. They put on a fine breakfast. I've, in the past, not been able to attend because of my schedule. I'm not able to attend this year, but I understand Mayor will, and I'm sure many members of council will. So again, 9 a.m., Tuesday the 10th, holiday pancake breakfast. Fee, $5 per person, and tickets, of course, have to be purchased in advance. I think up until tomorrow you have time. I do have another item, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
I did have another item. I mean, there was more than one. I needed to make some sense out of these special meeting actions by the majority of council. A lot of emails had come and gone. Some of the people, I may just be the only one now, that had been bounced back on emails, hadn't any real notice until 2 days before that meeting. That meeting on the 26th. For apparently the suspension of the manager was due to a cause reported to be spending money like water. I believe Mr. Johns made that accusation. I've reviewed the budget, and I've also reviewed some things from the August 13th, 2013 regular council meeting, and I just want to go over a couple of them because it was actually a very spirited meeting. One of the residents referred to the ordinance on police hiring at that time and questioned how many police officers were needed in Monroeville, and Mrs. McKinney answered 50. And the resident inquired about the current number at that time, and Mrs. McKinney answered that there were 47. There, of course, had been attrition. There were 2 deaths. The retirement window, because I do sit on the police pension committee, and when you are chosen to be a liaison to committees, and there's a question, which I was trying to reach out to one particular council member who was not able to be reached. One of the advantages I had being on the police pension committee was to see what past windows were open for retirement, how many people wanted to go through them, and how, because of what is a very careful process, you don't want to have too many people retire at once. So I could have given information based on my being present at that meeting, the intention of the retirees, the people who are looking forward to the retirement, because in that department, I know that the intensity of the number of years, you're looking at that magic date, and you want to make sure that you have enough money in the pension budget so that you can take that opportunity. That would have been a very simple phone call for anybody on council who had a question as to whether or not there were real intentions of retirements, to call the person who was liaison to the pension committee. Going on with what was said at the 13th of August meeting, the question that had to do about how many we were budgeted for and where we were at, that resident suggested that we just, get on with it. And if we had the money in the budget, please do so. Hiring should be done, and be done with it. And of course, Mrs. McKinney stated that it was currently being done. And of course, Mayor Aracinco at the same meeting explained that he supports the budget increase in the police department, but that there was his concern of this current shortfall that was perceived at $600,000. And we had a very long discussion about the revenue side, where the real estate taxes and the reassessments were of question. We ended up finding out at the end of that month that the question about whether or not we had a very big shortfall was actually that even though you had commercial and residential assessments and reassessments, that there were very few residential reassessments that were left to challenge how much real estate tax was going to be paid. There were more commercial reassessments, such as the mall, and I mentioned about that at that same meeting. And what we had in surplus on the other end, because we got more revenue on that end, alleviated the thought that there was any 2013 budgetary issues. So that took care of that concern. And then Mrs. McKinney was commended at that same meeting and for the job that she did on that. I also brought up to council at that meeting that because of the enormous amount of overtime that had been budgeted, and the fact that when you looked at the line items that were set aside for the detective division in particular, there was an $80,000 line item on that, just for overtime. That's how much anticipated overtime there was expected of the police force. But because of the hiring patterns that had occurred in the year 2013, with the retirements going out through that window of retirement, and with younger people who came in under a different tiered system, that there were 6 steps to those tiers, and that it would take a long time, not 18 months, but years in order to reach the level of dollars per hour that are expected for a police officer. We effectively knocked down that expenditure. So instead of having to spend $80,000 just for overtime to the detective division, we only ended up taking out $7,000 at that time. That's how effective of a hiring pattern of the police department affects budgets. You hire people who are younger, as people retire, and you don't use your overtime regardless of the minimums, which were appropriate minimums. If you hire wisely, bring in younger police personnel, and allow people who are going through that budget to the retirement window, there's a savings, and she was commended for that, because there is not as much of a drawdown from that overtime budget. I want everybody to go back and revisit the meeting, the minutes of that meeting, because that explains pretty well where we're at. Now, going back to what I had to say about this, I'd like to know, because I'm pretty sure everybody's here who was here at that special meeting. Apparently, there was just cause. Who found just cause? Whose decision was that to have a with cause?
Nothing was mentioned about that at this time.
So nothing.
You well know, under the Home Rule Charter, Lois, you know it as well as anybody sitting up here, and probably a lot of these folks out here, she has a right to a hearing within 30 days, but actually it's going to be January 6th. Am I not correct?
Council did not remove the manager.
That's correct.
Council suspended the manager with pay.
Well, I was going to get to that.
The manager of this municipality is still Lynette, to the extent that she has not been removed. 704 has not been employed under the Home Rule Charter at this point.
Okay. Who called for the subsequent executive session to the special meeting? Because as I read the advertisement, and you should know how I felt about it, because I sent an email to both you and the mayor, Mr. Dice, that not only did I think it was unusual when you could have picked the phone up and said, you know what, I'd like to advertise for a special meeting, please advertise, that our solicitor would be the one that advertised for this special meeting. At the same time, though, you didn't advertise for any executive session. So we've had an executive session held, as we now find out at the beginning of this meeting. that was not advertised, but could be advertised. And then we had what appears to be a decision that was made, which was a vote during that executive session. So who called for the executive session? Well, according to Mayor Arasinko, it was the majority of council. Who made some decisions that were inside that meeting? What have we learned about those decisions?
First off, we cannot talk about executive session issues, and it's happened more than once. You can have a meeting, I don't care if it's a regular meeting, a special meeting, executive sessions can come up at last minute. We followed the law. I announced it out rather, that we had the executive session on the 26th for personnel reasons. That meets the standard. Am I not correct, Mr. Dice?
Yes.
The Pennsylvania Sunshine Act requires advertising and public notice. There was opportunity before you gavelled down. There was no public notice. There was no mention to break away, which we often do if we have a need to break away.
Mr.
That we
Dice,
go
would you
into
please?
executive session.
Well, certainly, we can talk about this for a long time, but let me read the statute. The reason for holding the executive session must be announced at an open meeting occurring immediately prior to or subsequent to the executive session. So you can go into executive session following a meeting and announce the reason for the executive session at the next meeting following the executive session and announce the reason. And in this case, it was announced tonight that it was for personnel reasons.
Yep, I heard you.
And we've done that before. And that's section, just so everybody understands, that's section 708B of the Sunshine Law.
Yeah, I have it in front of me.
All right.
I do. What have we learned during this? And again, this is my comment, so, you're answering that question. The unhiring of new police officers who were hired in the line, actually in line with the 2013 budget, that decision was made by who? Was that the majority of council, as you said, Mr. Mayor?
I never said that.
You never said that. All right. Voting to lock out the finance director, the HR and finance director's email while she took vacation. Was that a majority of council vote as well?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, I do require answers. I'd
If
like
you'd like to go to an executive session, we can do that. I'm not going to address personnel
Yeah, I
issues
think-
out here. That is totally up to you.
I think we should. I think that I'd like to call for one. I call for an executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Roll call.
Let's do roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesau?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumhill?
Aye?
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for an executive session, and we should not be that long.
Just so I understand, the reason for this executive session is to discuss what happened at the executive session that we had?
Which is
That is
personnel.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct, just on the executive session that we had.
All right, that's fine.
And we're back in session, and council, I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of an executive
So
session.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll continue with our meeting.
Mr. Mayor, may I just finish one more comment on my report of the officials? Post our executive session, which did not shed too much light on some answers, and too bad for me, because that's just something that is going to be, we're just going to have somebody else deal with a whole lot of issues here. I do want to say this, though. I'm thinking of a lot of people who are kind-spirited and mean-spirited. Nelson Mandela died today. There's a kind spirit for you. I think of Mahatma Gandhi, too. It's always been a mystery to me how men can feel themselves honored by the humiliation of their fellow human beings. And that's what he said. I feel that regardless of the types of decisions that were carried on at that special meeting, that motion, there were three, but the motion, the first one, that was delivered in a mean spirit, the way it was intended, it just demonstrates the most concentrated work Mr. Johns has accomplished to this date. And I'm through with my report.
And ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to belabor. I just want to tell everybody I'll have more on my report on Tuesday. I'll hold all my comments, and with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and good night, ladies and gentlemen.